Hello everyone. In this video we are going to talk about setting fonts and colors in CSS. So go ahead and open up your CSS folder here in VS Code and actually right click on the CSS folder and choose new file and create a file named fonts-and-colors.html. Okay. And then go ahead and put in your starter code using the HTML5 code snippet. I suppose since we're beginners, we should indent the head and body elements so that we can clearly see that they are children nested within the HTML element. Then set the title, fonts and colors is good. And now inside the body, we're going to need some elements that we can work with. Now in the last video, we used type selectors for all of our CSS code. In this activity, we're going to use class selectors just to get some practice with those. So we're going to add classes to all these elements that we're about to add right here. Go ahead and create a div element, and then you can split apart the opening and closing div tags. And let's just make this say, for the content, let's make it say this is a happy div. Okay, and if you want, you can capitalize happy, but you don't have to. And now what we're going to do is we're going to classify this div as a happy one. So to do that, we'll add a class attribute and we'll set it equal to happy, I guess. So all of our happy elements can get this class. Okay, now go ahead and copy that entire div. So select the opening and closing div tags. Be careful that you don't miss a character. That can mess everything up, but I'm going to go ahead and select that div element like you see here. And then I'm pressing Control-C to copy it. And then we're going to paste it right here underneath itself and tweak it a little bit. So do Control-V to paste it. And now let's make a sad div. So we're going to change the class to sad. Okay, and then we'll change the content here to sad. And let's paste it again right underneath itself. We're going to need a few different moods for these. So put your cursor right there underneath that last closing div tag and do Control-V to paste again. And now this div is going to be blah. So we'll set the class to blah like that, and then we'll change the content in here so it says blah also. You're probably wondering where this is going, so I'm not exactly sure myself. All right, we need one more div with an emotion. Put your cursor underneath that last closing div tag, and then do Control-V again to paste. And then let's make this an angry one. So we're going to classify this as an angry div. In other words, set the class attribute to angry, and then we'll change the content in here so that it says angry. All right, so we just needed some divs, and we needed to classify them in certain ways because we're going to use class selectors when we target these in our code. And now we can get to talking about colors. Okay, so let's put a style element on the page, and we should put that inside the head. It can go underneath the title. So put a new line underneath the title element and then type in style and then hit enter, and then hit enter again to split those style tags apart. And let's see here. Let's go ahead and target all happy elements on the page. So we're going to use a class selector, and that means we have to start our selector with a dot. A dot means it's a class selector. And we're going to target the happy divs, all the divs that are classified as happy. There's only one, but there could be more. So that's our selector, and then we put our curly braces in right here. And we're just going to set the background color to yellow. I think yellow is a happy or maybe calming. Well, let's just say it's a happy color. So here for inside the rule set here, we're going to set the background color to yellow. So hopefully by now you're getting comfortable with the syntax there and setting properties within rule sets. Okay, and now this is review. We've already been using these color names before, so you can use colors like yellow and red and green and blue, and there's actually 255 color names that you can use. So if we save our changes here and then load this page in the browser, I'm going to pull it over here from my other monitor. You should see that we have a happy div that's yellow. I think yellow is happy, not sure exactly. All right, now we'll Alt VS Code and let's target the sad elements. So again, we're going to use class selectors. So for your selector, type in .sad and then your curly braces. And what color should we use for sad? Here's what we'll do. We'll set the background color here to this. So for the value of the background color property, we want to type in hashtag and then 4 zeros and then 2 Fs. Okay. Now that gives us a bluish color you can see from the box right there. I guess if you're sad, you might have the blues, so that's why I chose blue here. Now the important thing to note here is that we're not using a color name here. This is what we call a hexadecimal color. And I mentioned that if you're using color names, you have 255 colors to choose from. But if you use a hexadecimal number like this, then you have 16 million colors to choose from. So actually, this color picker that comes with VS Code can give you, you can click on here and it'll give you the hexadecimal number to use. So that might be helpful, but what's more helpful is if you use a color reference probably. Let me show you that in just a minute, but let's check out this page in the browser first. So press Control S to save your changes, then Alt Tab back to the browser here and hit refresh. And you can see that that color is blue here. Okay, let's open up a new browser tab. So click that plus sign right there. And then let's just do a search for HTML hex colors. Okay, now there's tons of references out there on the internet. Now, I'm not sure if this is a good one or not. I'll just try this one. Here's the first thing I found in my search. Okay, I don't know. This might be useful. You could go ahead and find the right color value to use here. So here you go. If you click on a color that you like, here's the hexadecimal number that you would use. And so I could also use this slider right here if I want to go more towards the yellows or greens, and then pick a color, and then here it shows me the hexadecimal color. All right, so anyways, you do have 16 million hexadecimal colors that you can use if you want to. Okay, let's, I'm going to close these two windows and let's go back to VS Code. And now I'm going to show you another way that you can choose colors. So let's target the blah divs here. Let's create another rule set underneath the last one. And we're using a class selector, and those start with a dot. And we're targeting all elements that are classified as blah. So we type that in for our selector and then put the curly braces in place and then split the curly braces apart. And let's set the background color property to this. Now we'll set it to RGB and then a pair of parentheses, and RGB stands for red, green, blue. And what we can do here is we can set the red, the green, and the blue values inside these parentheses here like this. So what we're going to do inside these parentheses is type in 128, comma, 128, comma, and then 128, comma, or no comma there. But so we have 3 128s inside those parentheses, and they're separated by commas. Okay, now the range that you can use for each of these numbers is from 0 to 255. So I chose 128 because it's exactly in the middle. So we're setting this to a straight gray right here, I believe, by setting each of these the red, green, and blue values to the halfway point. And that's going to give us gray, a blah color. Actually, gray is my favorite color. Anyways, save it with Control S, and then Alt Tab back to the browser and hit refresh, and you should have a gray background behind your blah div there. Okay, there is another way that we can set colors, and I'll show you here. And we're gonna try it out by targeting our angry div. Okay, so in the style element underneath the last rule set that we added, let's add another one here using a class selector. So we'll type in .angry and then our curly braces, split the curlies apart like that. And what we'll do here is I want to show you what you can do with the RGB colors. So set the background color to it's similar to what we did before, but after the colon, type in RGBA. We didn't add the A last time. And then put your parentheses in place like that. Okay, what we're going to do is go for pure red. So we're going to crank up the red, the first number, to 255, as high as it can go. And then we're going to set the green and the blue to zeros. So put a comma and a 0, and then a comma, then another 0. Now, this is RGBA. So what does the A stand for? A stands for alpha, and I don't know why they use alpha, but what it allows you to do is set the opacity of the background color here. So I'm going to put another comma right after that last 0. And now the range that we use for this has got to be a number between 0 and 1. So if we wanted it to be halfway opaque or halfway transparent, we could set this last number to 0.5. And now what you'll see here, once we save the changes with Control S and Alt Tab back to the browser, is that it looks like a faint red. And if there was something behind this, we would see it because it's we're setting the transparency level or the opacity level here. Here, let's go ahead and crank it all the way up to 1 here. So I'm going to change that 0.5 to 1, and that's going to be fully opaque now. So if I save my changes with Control S and Alt Tab back to the browser and hit refresh, now you can see that there is no transparency. It's fully opaque. Okay, so those are the different ways that you can apply colors using CSS. Now there is another way. We're not covering it here, but these aren't the only ways to do it. So color names are nice and easy, but you're limited in your choices. You get a lot more flexibility if you use either the hex colors or the RGB values. Let's talk about fonts now. Let's go ahead and add a rule set here. Here we're going to go back to our type selector and we're going to target the body element. So go ahead and set up a rule set that uses body for the selector and then your curly braces. Now when we target the body, we're targeting the body and all of the elements that are within the body. Now, there's a caveat to this that we're going to get to in the next video, but for now, if I target the body with my selector, what I'm really doing here is I'm setting a default. So let's set a default font for the whole entire body. So to do that, we can type in our property that we want to set is going to be font-family like that. Okay, now I don't have a whole lot of choices. These are the choices that I'm getting in VS Code. I'm not going to choose one of these. I'm just going to manually type in one. Let's go with Verdana. So you can type in Verdana like that. That'll be the font that we use. And then save your changes and Alt Tab back to the browser here. And now you should see that your font is different now. And because we applied this to the body, in other words, our selector was the body element there, it's affecting all of the children that are inside the body. Some CSS properties will do that and others won't, and we'll talk about that in the next lesson here. But what I want to talk about now is that you don't have a whole lot of fonts to choose from straight out of the browser. Most browsers only know about, I think it's 12 fonts. So you're really limited in the number of fonts that you can use straight out of the browser. But there is a workaround for this. You can actually use what's called a web font, and you can get a font from the internet and you can import it or link it into your page, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. Let's go back to the browser, Alt-Tab back to the browser here, and open up a new tab. And now there are lots of websites that provide fonts for you. I'm just going to use Google because that's a really common one, but do a search for Google and fonts, okay? And it should be this one right here. It's fonts.google.com. If you go ahead and click on that, it'll take you to it. Now, this is a website that has thousands and thousands of fonts that you can choose from. So I'm just going to start scrolling down the page here, and you can see, I mean, it's kind of overwhelming. And there's been times when I've been working on projects where I've spent hours looking for the right font. We're not going to spend too much time at it right now, but scroll a bit until you find one that catches your eye. Like this one here caught my eye for some reason. So I'm just going to choose this one. It doesn't really matter which font you choose. It doesn't have to be the same as the one I choose. But go ahead and click on one. Apparently the one I picked is called Seymour 1. And in order to get the font, now they always change this website, so this looks a little bit different than the last time I looked at it. But I think if I click Get Font here, it should give me what I need. Okay. I'm going to click on Get Embed Code here. Okay, this is what I was looking for. Okay, so here's the code that we can use to install this font onto our web page. So now there's a couple of different ways you can do it. I like to use this import option. So I'm going to click on this radio button right here for the import option. And here, what I can do is copy this import code right here. Now I don't need, I'm going to make this bigger. Hopefully you can see this. What I don't need here are the style tags because I've already got the style tags on my page. I just need everything that's in between those style tags. So you're basically copying a line of code. It's wrapping right now because I enlarged the text, but you're basically copying a line of code that has an import statement in it, and that will import the font into your web page for you. So go ahead and copy that, and then you want to put it at the top of your style element. So I'm going to go back up to the opening style tag, and I'm going to paste it right there like that. Okay, now I can't see the whole thing here. Let me rearrange some stuff here. I'm going to close that. Okay, and I should indent this properly. I'm going to line it up with all the other rule sets, so I'm going to indent it like that. Okay, and now depending on the font that you chose, it's going to look, your URL is going to look a little bit different. But this line of code will import that font, and then I can use it in my page. Now, in order to use it, I'm going to go back over to the Google Fonts page, and what I can do is I can use it by, there's different variations of it right here, but right here is showing me how I can set the font family property to use it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. It's setting the font family property, just that one line right there. I'm going to copy that with Control-C. And then let's go ahead and go back to our last rule set here. And I'm going to paste it into that rule set. Okay, now, so you can see, and I'm going to get rid of where we set the Verdana one. So I'm just going to, actually, you know what? I'm going to comment that line out here. So to comment out the first font family property setting, you can do Control// like that, and that will comment it out. Okay, now if I save my changes and Alt-Tab back to the browser and refresh my page, you can see that it's using my Google font. Okay, so a lot of graphic designers wouldn't stand for it if you could only choose, you know, of the 12 fonts that a browser comes with. So it's really good to know about how you can get web fonts from the web. All right, that'll do it for this video.